As an Indian owner, a new Indian owner, before I do any work on the bike, I like to watch other people do it on YouTube. I tried to find this on YouTube and I couldn't find this exact video of replacing the stock exhaust on a 2015 Indian Chieftain with the Freedom exhaust Liberty slip-ons. So I'm going to do it step by step, and hopefully this will help somebody like me who likes to watch somebody else and learn from their mistakes. The tools you'll need to take off and replace the slip-ons are a 15mm socket, 13mm socket, and a 1/4 inch socket. The 1/4 inch is to loosen the bracket on the heat shield. You can use a straight screwdriver, but I prefer to use the socket. That's up to you. I've already removed the saddlebags from the bike. Very easy process. There are two plastic side covers just under the seat that cover up the electronics. They pop right off with no tools. There's a small plug under there that runs from the electronics area under the seat to the saddlebag, and that's for the remote locking of the saddlebags. Just one clip on it, pulls open very easily and comes unplugged. I didn't remove the saddlebags on video because I fumbled through it, and if you can't take your own saddlebags off, you probably shouldn't be changing your own exhaust. Near the back of the slip-ons, on top of the bracket where the slip-on, the exhaust actually bolts to the bike, there are two rubber grommets, one on each side right here. Pinch that and pull it off. Save these grommets, they need to go back on. You can see the welded nuts on the inside of the bracket on the slip-on on both sides. The left side of the bike is fairly easy to get to the bolts, but on the right side the antenna is mounted into here, which makes it kind of crowded inside the bracket. So to get your 13mm socket into there is a little tough. If you have a Craftsman or one of the more thin-walled socket, it'll work much better. There's no way that you'll get an impact socket in there. It's too thick-walled without removing the antenna. There are 4 bolts that need to be removed. I described the one to you. I loosened that off of film because I didn't want to swear on the camera. But there are 3 other ones that hold the rear of the slip-on to the bikes. Okay, once those 4 bolts are out, should be loose from the back of the bike. According to the instructions, there's no need to take the heat shield all the way off. There are 2 clamps, one towards the front that's on the exhaust pipe and one on the back underneath here. It says that the instructions also say you can use a straight screwdriver to loosen the clamp. I prefer to use a 1/4 inch ratchet so there's no slip off. Just loosen the clamp from the heat shield so that it's loose. You don't have to remove it from the bike. And then just towards the front of the bike from there is the it's hard to see on here. Right here is the nut for the clamp that holds the slip-on actually onto the bike. And that is a 15mm nut, which I'll be removing it now. Again, there's no need to take the nut all the way off, just so the bracket is loose enough for the slip-on to be pulled off. Now, through the magic of video, after 5 minutes of swearing, sweating, and pulling and rocking back and forth and twisting, the slip-on comes off. You also notice I'm not wearing knee pads. That's because I'm old, my knees hurt, and kiss my ass. Okay, on this other bike we're going to do the same thing. Again, after several minutes of fighting with it, pops off. There's the clamp that you'll have to reuse. Still stuck on it. New ones, notice I also put on latex gloves or nitrile gloves. You want to keep as much oil off these from your hands as possible. When you put this on, make sure you have the right side. The it has two different serial numbers, but you can tell by looking at it. This is obviously going to be the top because of the shape of the cutout of the pipe and the word freedom on it. When you put your clamp on, you want to make sure that it's accessible at an angle from the bottom up. As I said before, you want to make sure as you're putting this onto the bike, you thread it through the clamp from the heat shield. Really? You want to work it on the same way you work the last one off, and you'll know when you have it on far enough because the bolts back here at the back will line up, the bolt holes will line up with the fixed nuts on the muffler. Remember to put the antenna bracket back on. It actually slips between the slip-on bracket and the mounting bracket. Remember to put there's a rubber grommet on the back of the antenna. It keeps water and dirt off of that connection, and that pops right on here. It's a little tough to see under here. There's what the grommet looks like. It's attached to the coax cable, but it just pops right back on there. After tightening the two rear bolts that hold the back on, come up front, tighten up the clamp. One small correction here. Prior to installing the new slip-ons, remove the clamp that holds the heat shield onto the slip-on. It doesn't tighten enough to accommodate the new slip-ons. There are two clamps that come with the Freedom exhaust that has to replace these. Set up and get it started. When putting the exhaust clamps onto the slip-ons, it might be necessary to use a dead blow or a rubber mallet. Tap them on. Even with the clamp loosened all the way out, they still go on pretty tight. Okay. Take two. You'll know it's in the right position because the holes here aren't really slotted. Well, they are very little, so it's an automatic lineup. Now it's into the holes. And this side should be much easier because I didn't have to fight with the antenna.
Tighten out the muffler clamp. And then tighten up the heat shield clamp again. The muffler clamp is 15 millimeter. The heat shield clamp is 8 millimeter to tighten the new one. Okay, the slip-ons are on, all the bolts are tightened, front muffler clamp bolts, the heat shield clamps are tight, all the bolts in the back are tight. As I said earlier, make sure after the installation, even if you wear gloves, go over the pipes, make sure they're clean. No fingerprints, no handprint, because they will burn into the pipes when these get hot. Also remember, replace these two little grommets.